Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Nick, and today we're doing another action figure review. This is the Nuclear Strike Godzilla from the 1998 Trendmasters toy line that coincided with the release of the film. So this was a basic carded Godzilla figure. I got this loose off of eBay, real good deal. I think I got it for like $10. And normally they go between 20 and 30. So this is probably your cheapest way of getting a Godzilla figure from the 98 line. And it's probably one that a lot of people are going to be after because it's got that like 7-8 inch scale going on. So he would look good with your other NECA Godzilla figures. Or SH Monster Arts. He wouldn't necessarily be in scale with them because I'm pretty sure Zilla is smaller than the Toho version of Godzilla, but he would look good because SH Monster Arts and NECA, they don't really pay too much attention to the scale, so I think he'll look nice alongside them if you have them all lined up like I do on a shelf. Sort of the evolution of Godzilla over the years. But this is the Nuclear Strike one, and like I said, it was probably the cheapest Godzilla you could get at the time and now. Basic single carded figure, sold on a card back just like the human figures and the baby Godzillas. And there was the Nuclear Strike one, the Tornado Blast one, and the Shatter Blast. I might be getting the names wrong, but it was Nuclear Strike, Tornado something, Shatter something. And all three were the exact same figure as this one. They just came with a different accessory. So this one, I believe, came with a jet, and the Tornado one came with a little Apache helicopter, and the Shadow Blast one came with some kind of all-terrain tank type vehicle. They're cool accessories, and I think they each had like a really big, obnoxious missile attached to them. And I remember getting like the 6-inch single carded Iron Giant figures. My brother and I did a year or two after, whenever the Iron Giant came out. So we got those, and they were also by Trendmasters, and they did the same thing where you had a 6-inch Iron Giant figure that was paired up with like a tank or a jet that had a missile attached to it. Now remember, all those Iron Giant figures were different from each other, including the accessory being different. But like I said, these Godzillas were all the same. So I see most people selling them as the Nuclear Strike, but I don't know. I mean, was it one that came with the Nuclear Strike accessories, or is it actually one of the others? I don't think there's any way to tell. Not that it really matters, to me at least, but to some people it might. So this is a really cool figure to have. I've been eyeing it for a while. I remember seeing it on store shelves, but of course I was more drawn to the larger ones at the time. But now that we have so many 6-inch, 7-inch Godzillas by SH Monster Arts and NECA, and no one seems to be giving us a really good detailed Godzilla figure in that scale, I figured it was definitely time to pick this one up. So you have all the nice details and coloring on this one that you have with the larger ones, and that's what I like about this Trendmasters line, is it's not like you have to get a really expensive Godzilla or a large Godzilla to get this level of detailing and coloration. It's pretty consistent throughout the whole line. Same type of application applied to the spikes, the underbelly, the eyes, and if you've been watching these reviews, you know I really am a big fan of all the attention to detail and accuracy of this paint job. The metallic blue used on the underbelly and the spikes is incredible, and I love the wash effect for the grayish body. I think the eyes could have been a little bit better than just that pumpkin orange, but they're still very nice, and a nice off-white for the teeth. So the proportions on this Godzilla are the main issue with it. The head is very large, the neck is very large, but then the body, the torso, is the same size as the head and the neck. And then the spikes are very small. They look maybe like they belong to one of the baby Godzillas, maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more height to them, but they're not big enough to be Godzillas. And then The arms, I don't think, are quite as long. It's kind of hard to tell because they are kind of bent, but I don't think they're quite long enough. The legs look about all right. The feet, I think, are too small, and then the tail is probably a little too short. All of this I could pretty much give a pass to, except the head being so large. I think one of the reasons the head is so large is to incorporate the action feature. It needs to be large enough to have that spring mechanism in it, including the neck. So it's not egregious. It's actually pretty good for the 90s. Just nowadays, these proportions wouldn't be acceptable. Now, I think this works maybe as like an in-between Godzilla, where he's not a baby, he's not the full-grown adult, he's maybe a juvenile, maybe like how we first see him in the Godzilla animated series. And I do really like this action feature. I like how there's no button or anything like that. You're pulling down on this spike, and that is what is activating the articulated jaw. Now, this isn't supposed to be like snapping action or anything. It works that way. It's supposed to be firing a missile that goes in there. So you do have a big glaring hole in the back of his head. It's actually not that noticeable, but I do appreciate that they at least incorporated this trigger into the sculpt very seamlessly, so that we didn't have the hole plus an obnoxious button. We just have the hole to deal with there. I don't know anyone that still has the missile, but it was a small translucent blue missile. I don't know if there's anything that you can use in there as a substitute, maybe just some random missile. So I have tons of random missiles from 90s toys. Maybe I'll start going through them and see if there's something I can use in there as an alternative. But it's interesting that they kind of made a whole toy based around that, considering he doesn't really use the flame effect in the film. I don't think he breathes radiation or fire or whatever. I think his breath is just so, he's just kicking up so much wind that it's kicking up vehicles that explode, and he's pushing the flames towards the characters. I think that's what's going on, or maybe his breath is flammable. But either way, I kind of like how they did that. I mean, it conveys the idea of him using that classic feature, but it's doing it in a more practical and realistic way. So one of the main reasons people like this figure is the articulation. You do have him in more of a neutral stance compared to the others, which are very pre-posed. And he has about the same articulation as the others, but considering he's so much smaller, this is a whole lot for this size figure. So you do have shoulder articulation, so his arms can move up and down, and you do have a swivel at the forearm, which when I first saw pictures of this, I thought this was just an assembly joint, but the swivel allows you to turn his forearms a full 360. So you can have his hands kind of posed like Godzilla 1954, or you can pose them more like the 98 version, where they're kind of more in a dinosaur type pose. So the legs are posed, like I said, in a neutral stance, but they are articulated more like the larger figures. So you have that hip articulation, you have the knee articulation, you have the ankle articulation. So it's quite a lot. And it's pretty useful too. I mean, you could get him in like more of a hunched pose or more of a tripodal pose. You can even, I don't know how many poses you could really get him in, because this tail isn't really articulated in any way. I think maybe a rubberized tail with a bendy wire would have been really nice, but you just have it on a swivel. But still nice. Really good amount of articulation for a basic single-carded 6-inch figure for the time. So really nice. Yeah, I think this toy line accomplished a lot. Is definitely underrated. So if you guys haven't already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys around. Bye.